Hey guys, how's it going? So I'm working on my miter saw station part 2 and needed a table saw sled. So that's what this video is going to be. Probably going to be a short little video, not making anything fancy, just a table saw sled. Real easy, real quick, and here you go. So I used scraps that were laying around the shop, pretty much anything that was flat and straight for this sled. And as you can see, I made the flat of this sled as long as the table. It was 40.5 inches long and 24.5 inches wide of 3/4 inch plywood. And here I'm measuring the miter slots, which are 3/4 of an inch, pretty standard stuff. So I made this piece of 3/4 inch oak fit in the miter saw slots with the help of a persuader and made some marks so I could make my rip cuts even with the top of the table. This was so that the plywood would sit nice and flat. It's always better to have more than not enough, so I snuck up on the final dimensions of the oak runners, 32nd of an inch at a time. I used a little double-sided carpet tape so I could set the top of the sled on the runners and line everything and square everything off before I screwed the runners to the top. I'm measuring here and going to be pre-drilling. I used a piece of electrical tape around the drill bit as a depth gauge, and then I'm going to countersink the drill holes for the screws. I'll be using the screws to align the runners later. I went ahead and marked each runner because each one seemed to fit in one miter slot better than the other. And I'm just drilling in the screws just enough so the tip sticks out so they align with the holes that are already in the top. And a little bit of paste wax ought to make these things slide just smooth as silk. And this is a nice squared up 2x6 for the back. So like I said, I used scraps to make this sled, and that front 2x6 isn't quite long enough to span the length of the sled, but that's okay. It's only there to hold the two pieces of plywood together after I run the table saw blade through the sled and make it two pieces. Besides, I'm able to distinguish which side's the front side, which side's the back side, and I decided to make it a little more comfortable in the hand. So I'm marking out my curves in the back side of the sled, and I'll do the same and match it up on the front as well. So apparently I lost a little footage here on how I lined up the rails with the blade. I just put the sled on top of the table and raised the blade up through the sled, and then used a carpenter's square to align the rails with the blade so that everything was at 90 degrees. And then I clamped the rails to the sled and flipped it over and screwed everything together. And if you want to see this table saw sled in action, it'll be in my miter saw station part 2 build video. Thanks for watching.